Okay, yes. I am Carlo Francini from Florence, and very thank you to Francesco for this very interesting lesson about the relationship by Italy and China. In particular, I think it's very interesting that the figures of Florentine origin, as Giovanni de Marignoli and the other, I think it's very interesting they can recreate a connection, because these figures is very low known in Italy, in Florence in particularly, and the activity of Francesco is very precious for create a new sensibility about these very important figures in the history of the dialogue, intercultural dialogue from East and West. And obviously, Giuseppe Castiglione is create a masterpiece of art. But I think it's very interesting that in deep they know about these very unknown figures. Yes, it's Giovanni Marignoli from Santa Croce is a strong connection, but it's very interesting the idea of the gift of the horse by the emperor, for example, is very suggestive. And thank you, Francesco, for this. And maybe only a question about the possibility to create more connection about these extraordinary figures, and the connection, for example, is my duty to remember is Florence is a World Heritage Site, but Macau is the same. It's very interesting to create a relationship, but from Florence and Macau in this field from the World Heritage, for example. Thank you again, Francesco, and very interesting lesson. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlo, for your remark. We know each other for so many years, and your work for the World Heritage in the city of Florence is to be thanked as well. And I think that your remark is suggestive and hopeful that maybe these are not only characters over a page, but they will become three-dimensional figures that embody this legacy of dialogue as the buildings are there. I mentioned San Giuseppe di Macau, which is an UNESCO site and is being built by Francesco Folleri from Florence. So that was one of the original idea. Father Stefan Rotli knows of the. Actually, he took me there to see the place, and I was really moved when I saw the bronze plaque of Folleri, and immediately, now being from Florence, you enter a place that's been designed by a Florentine in such a beautiful way. You see some connections with our Baroque architecture mediated through the experience of the architectures in Beijing, or the Portuguese, let's quote, say, colonial architecture. And here you have already a network of connections on which ground you can build many activities that I think we need to envision for the future, especially in this time of troubles, where there is a strong temptation, evil as it is, to disconnect, to unplug all of these years of research and of complicated, even a long conjoin with Chinese culture and people, and we have not to stop because of this. So there are actually lots of things in the direction that you were referring.
Thank you. I will pick a question from the chat room, which I found very significant, which reads, is there any more information about Castiglione and the Yanming Yuan construction, especially the fountain building. I pick this question because I also want to mention that we had a significant exhibition exactly on this topic at Florence University with Professor Vossilla and other experts from Italy. Professor Zangari was here, could say a lot. So we owe really a great gratitude to you, and I think you are best placed to answer this question.
I don't know if Luigi Zangari is here. I don't see him. I don't see him. But for myself, I have not long ago written 2 articles on the Yanming Yuan and try to reread the role of Castiglione. They've been published in English, so I can forward those to Father Zhao. We try our best with new documents also at the Arts of Rome, and we try to reread. And also Luigi Zangari has dedicated a book on this topic. The book is in Italian, but we are trying to cooperate and more on the topic. The topic is very well important to me, especially because I've visited those ruins so many times, and I'm fascinated by the fact that they remain as ruins, no? And so it's a testimony of it's even better. It's like the Colosseum, no, in the Renaissance. The Colosseum was a ruin, but it gave you the idea of the grandness of Rome. So in a way, it's important to study, for example, the aqueduct that allow Castiglione and the lay family, build the Yanming Yuan. We have to always take under consideration that Castiglione worked with a tremendous enterprise, the lay family, whose drawings are part of the World Heritage in the Library of Beijing. So this is a line of study that might be for decades. And it would be quite important, for example, in terms of dreaming, as Vulino, the dreams, if we could dream of a joint effort on re-establishing, to clarify the connection between Castiglione, this Westerner, and the lay family in building the Yanming Yuan Xianlong section for the Qianlong Emperor. I think this is something that is to be taken out of the borders of the scholars and enter, let's say, at least the community of the Christians in China. It should be something fully at the disposal of the Chinese Christians.
Okay, we have one question.
I don't know if I answer the question.
Francesco, one question from the floor.
Yes.
First is not a question, is an echo, because I enjoy to see Professor Francesco talking about the Franciscans in a quite detailed approach, which normally is not so well known. And I say, as a Jesuit, I say, it's fair enough to bring the first ones to begin, which normally is not much talked or taught. The second question of mine is more a little bit tricky or difficult, I would say. I'm going more in the line of thought. If I understood correctly, one of the emperors almost said, those Western nonsense, what they are teaching. We are here in some way, in my personal approach, listen also nowadays with that line of Chinese characteristics, a little bit of a negative approach to some way of living, including the Catholic one. I wonder if those difficulties of the missionaries, I'm talking in terms of thought, not in painting or other means of explaining, but this question of the difficulties to be deep in the understanding probably can bring us also nowadays what is more ideological, what is more the current of thought, to understand this new approach, which once again, I would say, the Chinese characteristic is going to the world. But there is that openness of different thought also. So as he called nonsense from one side, we can understand in some way, but we are maybe listening more or less the same thing also. And so I wonder if the tricky difficulties of understanding has something we nowadays we need to face humbly and courageously. If not, we continue to talk West and East, but each one in his own ivory tower.
I don't see this as a question. I see this as a proposal, Father. It's a very important. I just throw there these facts as elements for us to examine. I don't want to use, but maybe yes. It's a matter of discernment, not only for us, for all politicians. Kanshi was angry because the Pope was listening to other bells on the right controversy. And he was trying, I think, the Manchu monarch was trying to separate the matters of state and the influence of powers, foreign powers, from the possibility of a friendship with the Jesuits. So I think this is indeed a lesson and I want to say a burden, a yoke we got to bring on our shoulders. But maybe it would not be so heavy if we start to share the weight of the burden. If, as Pope John Paul II said, maybe we shall try to heal the wounds, especially because now we are suffering new wounds, and we got no time as human beings to quarrel, as we have so much in common, we share so much in this line, and therefore this is why I evidently I turned this book. When I started the book, and the presentation, I wanted to be more scholarly and propose one fact after the other. And then as I was reading the Fratres Omnes, I started to say, no, I did this. I don't know. I mean, I've done this before. You have done this before. You should do something else, which is more not a collection of information, but maybe has a very, very craftsman-like little signal of try to work along the line of friendship, which includes a criticism of our positions to forge ahead stronger bounds.
Horses are graceful animals, symbol of speed, of power. And I'm fascinated, especially by Giuseppe Castiglione's 100 Horses. Now, it's more of an observation, not so much a question. You have selected certain paintings of emperors riding different kinds of horses. Now, this gift of a celestial horse and connected with diplomacy. Like nowadays, we have panda. Now, horses, I think most people would agree that of all animals on earth, they are the most graceful and how do you say? People are fascinated. People like to see horses trotting or galloping or just in green pastures and so on. The fact that you chose that title, a gift of celestial horse. How do the missionaries regard themselves as horses? As they have to travel a long distance to be carriers of certain messages to emperors and so on. If you can elaborate on that, please.
Well, for the painting of Qianlong on with the armor on a horse, for example, that has been a topic have been studied in the last years because it has to do a lot with the powerful image of the ruler in control of an animal who is very gracious, as you said, Father, but is also a very nervous animal, no? If you ride a horse, you know how the horses are very nervous. So, as Aristotle says, the good horse in the Nicomachean Ethics, if I'm not mistaken, the good horse is the right war horse that responds to the commands of the rider, doesn't fear things in times of trouble, and is ready to advance. Otherwise, it's not as effective as a good horse. So if I were to compare missionaries and horses, they need to advance when it's time to advance, and they need to wait until the rider, who maybe would be the Redeemer, helping the missionary in his galloping, to move or to stay and wait. This is one, I don't know, analogy, metaphor, I don't know how to say that. Surely the idea of giving gifts, giving a tribute, is essential in Chinese culture. It is since Han Dynasty, tributary nation and given horses to the emperors. And Marignoli got to know that because the Togun Temur asked the Holy See to send war horses, that the emperor was saying, come here, but also send me a tribute, which is interesting. Now, so diplomacy is based on something which is a mediation. We have to recognize the positions, but also diplomacy is also, you are strong, but also you are weak. You ask for the other's attention, and you give and take, and the gifts are also important, even on a psychoanalytical level. So most of the characters we're working on with Gian Janin are characters that were friends. They developed this friendship. They used this capacity to make friends, to also be diplomat. The Franciscans, to go back to the topic of the Franciscans, my father and my mother gave me this name, Francesco, to begin with. So for me, at first it was Francesco d'Assisi. Then I discovered Francesco Saverio. This is a confession, so to speak, and I pray both of them every night. So the Franciscans had a tremendous role to start this mission abroad, going to the limits of Christianity. And therefore, they were, for a moment, probably the advanced sector of the Holy See. We are not to forget the Dominicans who started on the Silk Road even before the Franciscan times, but there are scholars that say that the Franciscan, because of their humility, poverty, tenets, they were more ready to accept the situation as in China under the UN regime.
Francesco, would you like to react to the questions from the chat room? So could you please clarify the relation between Sambiase and Wu Li?
I don't think they ever met. The thing is that we don't know, but surely in the area where of Jardin, no, Sambiase had been there. He was been teaching there before, 20 years before, and or more, even more. The relationship with Candida Su is important. The relationship of Wu Li with the Jesuit, Couplet and Rougemont, is essential. He was to go to Rome. And he could not go because he was already mature or too mature. So his provincial said, no, don't go. And Sambiase had written this text that had been translated in Chinese by, edited and translated by Li Jizhao. So Li Jizhao was a pillar of Christianity, Maestro Leone, mi pare. And so I think it is not a direct relation, but according to Ling Xiaoping, because of the popularity of the book on paintings and the questions on paintings and images and dreams, Wu Li had read the book by Sambiase and Lin Jizhao. So I am speculating that he read the book. He didn't need to meet the other Jesuit. Also, there was no time because Sambiase died before he was too young. Wu Li was too young. Although there's scholars that said that Wu Li was baptized earlier and his mother was a Catholic. This I'm not an expert on Wu Li, so I think it is mediated connection. And because of a book, to me, it makes even more sense.
Otherwise, I would just, well, following up on the remark of Father Luis Sequeira, really also appreciate that you honored the Franciscans and also that you drew the line from Giotto all the way to Pope Francis and his vision of Fratelli Tutti, which I think is the most updated articulation of Catholic social teaching. I think this is extremely inspiring. We had this last symposium on this new paradigm of this universal fraternity, which is often dismissed as a just simple dream. So it's true that your talk drew a very nice picture and the background of this option the Pope Francis wants us all to challenge. And just as a humble remark, I very much also like this question about the symbolism of the horse. We may also look into these different novels of Leo Tolstoy, who explored the psychology of the horse and its link to human life. So anything, I think I really would like to thank you, Francesco, very much indeed for this most inspiring talk.